Welcome everyone to Disruptive Conversations. Here we are again, another opportunity for us to be looking how to create positive change in our lives. We're built for change. Every day gives us an opportunity to have change, to initiate change, and really make it happen for us. Alicia's already coming on with her request. We're going to fingers crossed that this is a seamless entry. Sometimes that happens, and sometimes we need to give it another try. And it is happening today. We are so seamless. We are really making it happen. Alicia, it is wonderful to see your face. I'm going to give you a moment to be able to arrange yourself, not to worry. I'm going to announce the show, announce myself, and announce you. So you go do what you need to do at the moment. And so for everyone today, welcome to Disruptive Conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, influencers, journalists, TV personalities, authors, educators, musicians, in which we deep dive into the experiences these women have needed to navigate and conquer in order to have achieved their personal and professional success up to this point in time. I'm Dr. Risa Reiger, clinical psychologist, and I'm an expert in change. I help people make positive change, individuals, companies, teams, because positive change can happen at any point in time. You're never too late. That is the great news. And to make positive change, we need to disrupt. We need to disrupt a thought, a feeling, a belief, a habit, a behavior in order to create our 10.0 lives. And that's what this series of conversations is all about. And today, to help us in that journey, I couldn't imagine a more wonderful guest than Alicia Quarles. And just briefly, because we have a lot to talk about, Alicia is an Emmy Award winning journalist who's been on major outlets. She's been on ABC, E! News, Associated Press, and she is here with us today. She's been, if someone needed more than two hands to juggle with, it's Alicia. But let's give her a big round of applause because she juggles what somebody else would need six hands for. She's juggling with two. So Alicia, welcome. So happy to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Risa. That's such a beautiful intro, and I'm so happy to be here and speaking with you.
So is there something that I haven't mentioned about your bio that you would like us to know?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I guess what's interesting about me, other than my bio, growing up, I moved every 3 years on average. So I lived all over the country. At one point, I lived in Japan. My dad was the first Black newspaper president in the country, and that's when newspapers were very viable. And he was known as the fixer. So he would go financially get a paper in shape, and we'd move to the next city. So I've lived all over America.
That's really incredible. And I'm going to keep that in mind as we have our time together, which is going to go like a blink. So Alicia, what is it that you needed to disrupt inside of yourself in order to have achieved the personal and professional success you have up to this point in time? Because obviously there's more to come.
I think it's twofold. On a professional level, it was really that self-belief. You talked about the Associated Press. That was my first job out of college. I started as a producer in LA and I worked my way up. 10 years later, I became the global lifestyles and entertainment editor. I was 28 years old and I was overseeing a staff of 60 people around the world. And these were colleagues a lot of them were older than me. I've worked with them for a long time. And I remember when it was announced I was going to be their boss, we had a team meeting, and I said, look, a lot of you know more than me. You have more life experience, you have more work experience, but nobody's going to fight harder for you. And so I think that it's digging in, and some of them still say I was the best boss they ever had. And I think that some of that's digging into that self-belief. You've got to truly believe in yourself. There were naysayers saying I was too young. There were people that looked at me saying, entertainment's not real news. Well, it is. So just a lot of haters out there, but every single day, I tell myself I believe in myself. So that was on a professional level. On a personal level, it was just saying yes. You know, I unexpectedly got pregnant with twins at 41. So to be pregnant for the first time, then to find out it's twins, it was like, whoa. So I had so many people telling me, you're not going to be able to do this. This is crazy. Why would you have this beautiful life? Why would you even want to do this at 41? But there was a calm that came over me, and I knew it was meant to be, and I was meant to be their mom. And I always wanted to be a mom. I thought, though, I was working so hard, I missed my window. So there was also that belief that God doesn't give you more than you can bear. And I had to reframe my mindset. I think God thinks I'm so awesome. He gave me two.
He doubled
He
down
doubled
with you.
down with me.
So you're talking about believing in yourself, and and we hear a lot about that. I've got to believe in myself. I need to have my confidence. But what could you point to? Because our communities are listening and they want to hear this from you. What is it that helped you inside of yourself be able to believe in yourself? Because we have doubts, we have situations that come up, we have challenges, we get scared, we have all of those feelings. So could you tell us more about
Yeah,
that?
I think foundationally it's my base, right? It is my parents. They just poured love into me and they instilled that self-belief in me. And I was an athlete. I was a very good athlete growing up. And with athletes, we don't give up. You put one foot in front of another always. You just put one foot in front of another. And for me, we've talked about this, doctor. I had a pretty public mental health breakdown. I was working 3 jobs. I was tired and didn't know I was pregnant with twins. So imagine being exhausted and not knowing that you're pregnant and have hormones of two. So to survive that public, at the time I thought it was shame, it wasn't, because it became my superpower. It really opened me up to having conversations like this, right? To the honesty, to that, all of that. And I remember this. My mom passed away about a year after that mental health crisis, and I was standing in my closet right after she passed away. And I just thought, if I can get through this, I can get through anything. So I think, you have these valleys in life and you don't think you're going to get through it. You are. You've survived 100% of your bad days.
I'm just finding that it's taking a moment to just let this sink in. You've packed a lot in that one sentence. Uh, Finding out you're pregnant with twins, having a mental health breakdown, your mother dying. I mean, we're not talking about, I went to the store and they didn't have the tuna that I wanted.
Right. No, we're not talking about that. And there were times in my life, my best friend, and this is not trauma dumping, but I want people to understand, like, things happen in your life to prepare you for something else. So when I was 32, my best friend was 34. She died of ovarian cancer. And up until that point, I had a very charmed life. And at the same time, I was going through a divorce. And I thought that was the worst year of my life until it wasn't. But as women, I'm so amazed by our beautiful strength, right? And I just think about this. I joke like, oh, God loved me so much, he gave me twins. I really believe God gave me two, because as my mother was leaving this earth, she got to meet them.
Oh,
I would have truly been devastated. We were that close. But God gave me these babies to really live for and to pour into. And, my mother taught me so many lessons. I just wrote an article about lessons from Linda. So I think when you go through those trials and those tribulations, you find that inner strength. And then my mission in life changed. It changed to be open, to be honest about my entire life, and to help people. So I figure if I went through this, somebody else is going through it, and it didn't happen in vain. Use your platform to help people.
that's so important and really a source of strength to be able to, to be able to go forward in that kind of way, because, we can't change what has happened to us. And there's a real misunderstanding that you do not have, which is that we should sidestep it and we should push it in the back. But it doesn't. It stands by us side by side. And what you've done, and I'd love to hear more about this, I'm sure everybody else does too, is that you have taken from that and metabolized it. And you're not in denial and you're not in avoidance, but you've culled through and learned and taken from it. And how was that for you?
Well, for me, it was a lesson that I didn't learn the first time. And if you don't learn your lesson, the universe, you're going to keep repeating it till you learn it. So when my best friend passed away and I was going through that awful divorce, I never processed the grief. I just kept working, right? I'm a good journalist. I can say that. I'm a really good journalist. So
Yes.
opportunities kept coming and I didn't process it. I went to a therapist. It wasn't the right fit. And I just poo-pooed it. Years later, that unprocessed grief, that all that working so hard, your mind it's like my mind broke is how I liken it to, right? You get your car tuned up. If you had a cut on your arm, you'd address it. A lot of us don't address our minds and gives ourselves time to breathe. So this time around, I go, no, I'm going to actually really take my healing serious. I'm going to really lean into grief. I'm going to really process my mother being gone. I'm going to process this very public breakdown. I'm with a great therapist who now I've worked with for over 2 years. Love her. Every emotion that I feel, I lean into it because what I've discovered is that grief, is that shame, is that all those things make you grow. They can be beautiful things. You can come out as so much of a better healed person if you actually take time to process it and not fight it.
Not only that, I'm going to add to that because what you're saying is crucial, which is that is, I believe, and I want to hear what you think. I believe that is where you really get your confidence from and your courage. Is leaning in.
Yes, it's the leaning it 1,000%. Anybody can put a band-aid on anything, right? But if you don't really dress the wound and let it breathe, yeah, and I call it my superpower now. I know I can get through anything because I've actually done the work, right? So that breakdown happened a couple of years ago. My mom died over a year ago. My twins are 1 year old. So there's constant change, but I'm very present and I know that it's okay to feel your emotions. You should, because you're going to come out the other side a better, wiser person.
Yes, and feeling your feelings isn't it isn't a weakness, it's a strength, and that we have a whole gamut of feelings. Some are more comfortable, some are really uncomfortable, some are totally cringe, like make us cringe. But that's the deal. That's part of the texture and what makes us human and the wonderfulness of who you are as a human being.
I agree. And there has to be a point also where you decide, do I want to be a better person, the best version of myself? And to do that, you're going to have to feel those feelings. But just remember, everything's temporary. If you're feeling that deep grief, that deep sadness, it's temporary. Maybe that elation is temporary. Whatever it is, feel it, embrace it, no matter how hard it is, because you will get through it.
And one of the reasons why you know that, and I just want to also comment, Alicia, you don't have things happen in ones. You know, you just like, I'm listening to this like, well, my died and I was getting
Right.
divorced. You're
We don't do
you're like
small
multi.
things over here.
Yeah,
It all just goes at once. Big things, well, yeah, it goes at once.
it's just like, it's like, that would have been enough, but no, there's
But there's
more.
more. Right, but there's more. And now I can look back and just like kind of shake my head, and I guess you laugh sometimes to get through the pain. But Dr. Risa, it doesn't happen in small doses.
It does, and I'll share with you because you're so forward. As I said in the video, you live out loud, and I think that's absolutely true. That I lost both my parents. It's been a long time. It's really been a long time, and they died on the same day, 6 years
Oh
apart.
my gosh.
And that's just I just had the anniversary of their death this week, so I'm really, really resonating with you on that and what it means to lose your mom when you're a mom.
I should ask you. I'm a journalist, real quick. How are you feeling? Because there's something beautiful the same day, and I know that there has to be like.
Well, yeah. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it back. I'm going to turn it back because you're here as a guest. We'll figure that out. But frankly, what happened was that it was obviously enormously painful. Each loss was enormously painful, but there seemed to be this understanding, this picture that it couldn't have happened with more meaning. And it really speaks to what we can't put our hands on, which has to do with connection. And connection is everything. How we're connected, how we connect with ourselves. And one of the things that you're talking about is how you connect with yourself. power of that connection and what that does for you, what that gives to you. And that's one spot. And then when we take that into the world, how we connect with others and what that means for us. Because it's everything, you think?
I agree with you 1,000%. Everything is connection, 1,000%.
Yeah. And now you have these two little beings that you're connecting with.
Yes, I have Harlow and Hudson. So in Mom Talk, they're 15 months, but they're amazing. They're walking now. We're in swim class. It's such a sweet part of my life because again, I thought I just had always wanted to be a mom, and I thought I just had missed my window. So it's just been such a blessing.
That's incredible. And so from the journalist part of you, from the person who has tremendous impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're on the screen a lot. And you're a powerful presence. So when you get on, it's not necessarily through your words, but you have your words also. What is it? What is the messaging that you want people to get from you?
I think when people do interviews with me, I've interviewed some of the biggest names in the world. I've interviewed Sue down the street. I want them to know that I'm here to be fair. I'm going to ask you tough questions, but it's not going to be malicious. It's going to be because people want to know. I think being a journalist to me is the greatest joy in the world, and I carry it with care, right? To be a steward of other people's stories, to get to tell stories you otherwise wouldn't have heard, to be the steward of that brings me such joy, and I take it very carefully. So when people are tuning in or watching a report that I've done, know that I've done my research, that it is balanced. I'm not there to skew one way or another. I try to be as unbiased as possible. And I really want you to walk away learning something, knowing something to make your day a little bit more positive and brighter and better.
That's just, I mean, what else can you say? So you're telling it like it is. And what I'm hearing is you're also finding that kernel of optimism. And
Yep.
and that's that's the seed that gets dropped.
Exactly. And this is what you were talking about earlier, that human connectivity. I love human interest stories, and I guess every story I do, whether I'm doing a hard news story, as we say in our industry, I always find the human nugget. People want to connect with people. People want to know that they're not alone. I think, one of the best parts of a story is you can walk away saying, oh, that person's like me, or I learned something like-minded. So yeah, it's that human interest, that kernel, those emotions.
The other piece is that you, particularly with social media, with so much being public, there's a lot of mushiness between public and private, and is there private? And how we put ourselves forward is really just such a crucial piece.
It is, and I think things have changed. I'm 42 now, so when I started journalism, there wasn't social media, right? Now there is, and so you feel like you really get to know people through social media, but also through their work. And that's why I am so candid about who I am. How could I ever ask other people to be honest with me if I'm not being honest with everybody? So I think the days of being truly private, unless you're completely off social media, are really over.
And when you're talking about the tough times that have happened, and more than never one at a time, you're not a singular person.
Yeah.
Clearly, you are. The singular is not the word, other than you've got your singularness, right? Um, that what we see so much on social media is this very polished, best moment. And how do we bring our humanity into that? Because women are so vulnerable, can be. I don't want to say have to, and it's something that we're working on, don't you think? That we self-reference so often, and when we cherry pick pieces of people, where we can find spaces where we can feel less than.
1,000%. I think, social media can sometimes make you feel imposter syndrome. But on the flip side, and I learned this, her name is DM Brown, my best friend that passed away from ovarian cancer. She was also a star. She was on MTV, and she was, you know, for People magazine, she documented, she had cancer 3 times, and she documented losing her hair. She did also, she had this great following. But I remember when she was very sick in the hospital, social media was her outlet because people were writing into her, they were pouring into her, they were feeding her love. And I found for all of the negative things out there, there's so much positive. When I did go through my mental health crisis, so many people reached out to me, strangers that I don't know who I feel like I know now, people that are well-known people that went through their own struggles, and I would have never had that support system or known that I was being so supported without the power of social media. So I think, again, it's how you lean into it.
And you can choose how you lean in. Yeah. But
Yes.
to just throw in a little bit of neuroscience here, which is that we can bring awareness to what we're experiencing, and we have these different circuitries in us. And one is that social engagement that helps us move forward, and the other is when we start to sense that it's not safe, that it's dangerous, it's different than life-threatening, but we're not in a safe space, and we step back.
I think you make an excellent point, because I've had times in my life where I have stepped back from it. It's hard sometimes when you're watching that person get that job or that you're not supposed to compare yourself to others, but we're human, right? So this time when I came back to social, now if you look on my page, it's babies, and it's also like very healthy, positive mantras. It's healthy food. It's, you know, wonderful things I want to do. So I really have been conscious to surround myself positive, wonderful women like you, to surround myself. What I'm saying is what inspires me.
I also want to let women know, or everyone here, because the men are important. You're a boy mom and a girl mom.
Yes.
You've got the ground covered. There's something I'll let you know later, but yeah. So that I just
That's
lost my
okay.
train.
I'm looking at the comments. Hi, Josh. I'm just saying hi to one of my best friends is on here. But hi, everybody tuning
Yeah,
in.
that when we are not our best selves, how do we give ourselves the grace of learning?
That's a good question. Isn't that difficult? We're all high achievers, right? And when you are a high achiever, you get in your own head. You're gonna constantly try. You're gonna constantly do better. So I just wrote this article for Hey Mama where we met.
Yes, yes,
Yes, and it's called Lessons from Linda. It's a
yes.
lesson from my mom. So to that point, one of the lessons she taught me, which finally I've applied to my life, is be still and get out of your own way. So what my mother meant by that is sometimes when you want it so much and you're trying and you're reaching out and you're doing all the things, but nothing seems to be happening, be still and get out of your own way. So we believe in God, but believe whatever higher power you believe in. I'm not here to judge, but it just means that you cannot bend the will of the universe to what you want just because you are great at what you do. You put the work in. If it's going to happen for you and you've done the things, do not get in your way. Be still and have some faith.
Having faith, and having faith in yourself also, that if it's not happening right now, it doesn't mean that it's happening never.
1,000%.
And we get scared.
We get scared. It's panic mode, right? So it was panic mode for me. Am I gonna have kids? Oh my God, I missed my window. Oh my God, I'm not working the way I want to. I want that job. Oh my God, I'm not meeting that right person. That is so human. And then I think when we get scared, we get down on ourselves, and that can be just a vicious cycle. So you need people whether it's your therapist, your friends, your family, that you can just talk to and release that and rest. And that's not easy to do. That takes practice and practice and practice.
And sometimes we tend to isolate ourselves when we're not feeling great about ourselves. I wanted to ask you this: when you were dating, did you do what I call the quilt? That kind of quilt where you put pieces together, that patchwork quilt. And when you were dating, were you like, well, if he had this from that guy, and that from the other guy, and that from, that intellect with that sense of humor and that kind of fun, and that would be my person.
I did the opposite. So I was with my ex-husband Mike for 13 years, married for 7. But after that, then I had another boyfriend, then another. So I'm definitely a serial
Okay.
monogamist. I love to love. And I really believe that in life we change. And I believe in your life you can have several big loves. And I've had several big loves, and I think I'll have several more. I'm very open. I'm not a person that thinks you're going to be with this person for the rest of your life. That's just not who I am.
It's so great that you know that. It's just so great that you know that. It is, because you get to forge your path. You have a clarity about yourself. But in order for us to be able to have a clarity about ourselves, we need to let in a lot.
1,000%. It's also knowing yourself. There's just some self assurance. I know myself.
I
I
hear.
I know. My sister judges me. She's like, God, you just love everybody. And I'm like, I love to love. I can find something great about you and probably fall in love next week. That's who I am.
So, so people who step away from networking has like it can have like a little bit of a slimy-ish kind of connotation, in that, well, I'm networking because I want to get something from someone. And networking can be an opportunity. I think of it so differently, because that's how we
That's
met.
how
We
we met.
a shout out to Hey Mama. We met at a Hey Mama event, and I was so intrigued by what you were saying. And we just started a conversation, and we follow through. And obviously, we followed through, and here we are now. And so, what advice you want to give to people who go, no, I'm just not comfortable. That's not me.
I'm glad you asked that because you're right. Networking does get a very negative connotation, but it goes back to that human interest thing that we were talking about. I fundamentally believe most people are really good. People know people. This is like a saying, the father of my children, it really drives home with me. People know people. So if you want to maybe get to something, if you need help with something, people know people. Reach out and ask. The worst thing that can happen, they're going to say no. And if that devastates you, you're probably not built for whatever you're trying to get to. Yeah, reach out to people. People know people. There's nothing wrong with that.
And not only that, but when you come to meet people and you have a true curiosity about them, and when you make it not about you, but who am I talking to? Oh, she looks interested. You are wearing this fabulous dress, like,
Oh, thank you.
like great colors. I mean,
I'm wearing that dress tomorrow. Thank you.
I love it, right? And I was listening to you, and I thought to myself, and I told you, I said, so this is a woman I really want to continue. I want to have conversation with her.
But Dr. Reese, you were awesome because you immediately followed through and we made this happen. I had a schedule change and your assistant Carly was on it. You guys have just been incredible. But it was because we had a genuine connection.
So, so for people who are stepping back from an event where they may not know someone, or it's called a networking event, do yourself a favor and rename it in your head as an opportunity to meet interesting people who you ordinarily wouldn't run into.
1,000%. Because we were talking about Instagram or social media and how you're looking at
Yes.
people's lives. Connect with people in real time. There's some amazing, wonderful people that maybe wouldn't be in your everyday life. But if you're at these events, I think people are like-minded. People want to reach out and want to talk. And I love your point about not making it about you per se, but to genuinely connect with someone.
I think I want to make sure to go back to this, because when you were talking about yourself being the boss, right, going back at the beginning, and your father as a Black man was at a level in publishing where he was out there and he was the fixer,
Yeah.
which is which is what a position that is, right? To go in and to be that fixer over and over again. And then you, as a young woman and a young Black woman, are coming in and taking over as boss.
Right, right. I consider myself to be a journalist. That's what I am. If you talk to my father, he'll tell you he's a businessman. So there's just certain things, though, that he's taught me as a boss. I remember when I took over that job at the Associated Press, and he said, look, it's very simple, Alicia. If you can't put yourself last for 2 years and make that commitment and put everybody else first, you don't take that role. And so that's really a role that a mindset I've always had when being a leader. You put yourself last. you put your team first.
That is a very unusual orientation. I mean, that level of integrity and ethical commitment and how you see leadership.
Absolutely. But time tells everything, right? So that was 10 years ago when my first managed a big team. Still close with most of those people. They still tell me what an amazing boss I was. But not to toot my own horn, I posted a picture of my father on Father's Day, and the comments really brought me joy because people from around the country were like, "Oh, we worked for your dad at this place. He was the best boss ever." And I'm like, I hope to be half the boss that he was. That's incredible.
And when you come on and as a journalist, you're also, and you are such an influencer and you have the ability to have so much impact. And one of the things I loved thinking about, because I was asked to give a presentation for suicide prevention. And I thought to myself, most people here are never going to be with someone who's actively considering suicide. But here it is what we can do. I know this is a shift in mindset, but here it is what we can do, which is to acknowledge someone, say something at the moment where you can be kind instead of not. What it doesn't cost you anymore, and it doesn't take you any longer. And that's what I'm hearing from you in terms of your optimism. And when you're doing whatever story that you're doing, you're dropping that seed of optimism, because optimism isn't about when everything's great, and that.
Yes.
Optimism is when you're getting double down with heartache.
Yep.
And that's where you're finding the optimism. That is
what does Obama say? The audacity of hope, right? It's in the Bible, mustard seed of hope, mustard seed of faith. Yeah, you're going to be optimistic when everything's going great, but what about when you're in your valley and life is sucking? So I remember, like my prayer when I was just going through it. It's everything in my life I felt like was just not going right. I would just pray and I would have faith and I would be like, God, make me the best person that I can be. And my promise to myself was, as soon as I got back on track, I'm going to give blessings with my blessings. And I remember Jennifer Hudson taught me that. So Jennifer Hudson's incredible story, she's the EGOT winner. A lot of her family was murdered by her sister's boyfriend. And that would make anybody give up on life. And she didn't. And there was a video that went viral a few years ago. Her assistant is somebody she grew up with, and she bought her assistant a house. And her assistant was crying. It was just awesome. So I interviewed her, and she said to me, it's very simple. Give blessings with your blessings. And that always resonated in me. I don't want to trauma compare, but everybody's going through something. You have the ability. Optimism is free. Give blessings with your blessings.
I love that. I really love that. And the kicker here is that you never know. You never know how it's going to impact someone. And after I talked about that, there was someone, it was a very, like well established, like very prominent group. And someone came over to me and said that that was what they needed to hear that day. Because you never know what's happening with the person really sitting next to you or who you're passing on the street. And your acknowledgement, your kindness, your giving of the blessing, and even if it's the blessing of eye contact,
Right.
whatever it is, can make the difference in someone else's life.
It's so true.
Right?
As the kids are saying now, you give people their flowers. So, when people pass away, you get flowers. People are like, no, give them their flowers. So you tell somebody right now how amazing they are. Give them that smile. Give them their flowers.
Yeah, don't wait. I feel this very strongly. And my mother, your mother had a lot of wisdom. And I'll tell you what I'll share my mother moment with you, which is that she believed in being able to give while she was alive.
Love it. Yeah, that's right. Can't take it with you.
Yeah. And she talked about giving with a warm hand.
Oh,
Give with a warm hand.
so that means it's coming from your heart, the gift?
It's coming from your heart, And also, you know, all these people who get recognized posthumously, what do
Oh, I get it. Give them their flowers. I got it. I got
you,
it.
right? You know, if you, you know, do you really have to name a bridge after someone after they've died?
Right.
I mean, why not give the joy
Right. Right. I got it.
when they can enjoy it?
Enjoy. Give it with the warm hand. I like that. I'm gonna be borrowing that one.
Well, I'm going to be borrowing from you too. I'm borrowing from you too. So as I knew, this has been a blink, and and I'm so thrilled that we were able to do this together. So I know we have to take our cover shot, but before we do that, Alicia, what's your next disruption?
Oh, this is a good one. Oh my gosh. I've got something really big coming, actually. I can't announce it yet. We've got something really positive, really phenomenal, and it's really all my perfect worlds colliding. That's going to be my next disruption, to show people you can overcome anything with a positive mindset, with great people behind you. Go get them.
And on that note, that's very inspiring. Go get them. And that you never know how all of these things that you've done will come together in a way that has you be the person poised and really just exquisitely poised for your next moment. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom to the top. And thank you so much for sharing your your tenacity and your optimism and your heartfulness, your wisdom, and really sharing about what I experience as a piece of your soul with us. And I can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Risa. With a warm hand, I appreciate you.
Warm hand, with the warm hand. So let's take our cover shot.
Okay.
Okay. And one more.
Okay.
Women love options. And for everybody who's here, it's so great that you came to visit today. I'll see you next time. Remember, positive change happens at any point in time. You're never too late. And see you next time. I've saved a seat for you.
Bye, Doctor.
Bye.